Before we begin, this is an extremely disturbing story. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. You also notice I muted some words due to being YouTube friendly. Anyways, thanks for checking out the channel. Let's begin. Leonard Lake was an infamous with his crime spree spreading over a span of 2 years from 1983 to 1985. Born October 29th, 1945, Lake would go on to live a grim and dark life. In the early 1950s, his parents would split. Lake and his siblings would go on to live with their grandparents. Many claim he was a bright young man, but had a twisted and sick mind. Lake would take pictures of his sister at a young age, supposedly encouraged by his mother. He had a very sick childhood and would go on to have sex with his sister in return for protection from their younger brother Donald's violent outbursts. Leonard Lake even attempted to make neighborhood girls his. He had an obsession with small animals, such as mice and chemicals, which is a telltale sign of it. In 1965, Lake would go on to serve in the military underneath the Marine branch. 7 years later, in 1971, Lake was discharged due to a mental health diagnosis, a schizoid personality disorder. He took his chances at San Jose University. However, unsuccessful, not even lasting 1 year at the university. After dropping out, Lake would become obsessed with war, the end of times, and weapons. He married in 1975, however the marriage was short-lived due to his production of movies. His then wife found out he was filming films with other women and included leather straps and shackles. Later on in 1977, he met a woman named Clarence Ballas and would go on to marry her 4 years later in 1981. In 1980, Lake faced prison time and probation due to car theft. His second marriage was also short-lived, as Lake had very violent behavior and encouraged Ballas to start films. Lake was arrested again in 1982 due to firearm violations, but skipped town and hid on a ranch. In 1982, Lake would go on to meet a character much like him named Charles Ng. On December 24, 1960, Charles Ng was born in Hong Kong to a father who was a businessman and physically abusive towards Charles. He had an obsession with setting things on fire and a compulsive habit of theft. At the early age of 15, he was arrested for shoplifting, and his father decided to send him to a boarding school for a behavior adjustment. However, Charles did not last long at the boarding school due to his compulsive stealing of other classmates' possessions. Much like Lake, he went to college, however he dropped out in less than a year. Charles' crime spree was constant throughout his life and led him down a more grim path. In 1979, Charles Ng was arrested for a hit and run and would go on to serve in the military in 1980 underneath the Marine branch. He was also discharged just like Lake, but under circumstances that were different. He went on to steal $11,000 of automatic weapons from the Marine Corps. He was sentenced to 14 years, but escaped to California where he met Lake. Charles and Lake seemed like a very morbid match for each other given their similar crime path throughout their life. In 1982, Charles would move to a ranch where their morbid crime spree of abducting people began. Lake and Charles Ng crime spree took place in a bunker constructed by Lake on his ranch. His journal included very disturbing writings, which included an entry that stated, "God meant woman for cooking, cleaning, house, and..." The Leonard Lake tapes include the extremely horrifying of women. One of the home movies includes Lake saying, "By cooperating with us, that means you will stay here as prisoner. You will work for us. You will wash for us. You will for us. Or you can say no, in which case we'll tie you to the bed. And then we'll take you outside and your choice." Lake and Charles Ng are extremely disgusting creatures, and their crimes only get more dark and demented. And the Leonard Lake tapes include. On June 2nd, 1985, Charles was caught shoplifting in San Francisco, California, and fled the police. However, Lake was with them, and when his car was searched, police would uncover a .22 revolver equipped with a silencer, and Lake would be arrested. He identified himself under an alias, Robin Stapley, and even had a license to go along with his claim. The ID stated that the police had a white male who was 26. However, Lake was clearly in his late 30s, and this raised suspicion. After arriving at the police station, Lake requested a glass of water, and upon receiving the glass of water, he would go on to swallow a cyanide pill, which he had hidden previous to his arrest. This is a very cowardly way to go out, and only further proves his lack of innocence in his and Charles' vile crime spree. He would go on to collapse at the police station and was rushed to the hospital, where he remained in a coma for 4 days before passing away. Many people were glad Lake succumbed to his death, and that millions of tax dollars would not be wasted on this sick man. I cannot blame them for this assessment. However, I wish he would have faced charges, although they would not amount to the pain and suffering Lake and Charles Ng inflicted on others. It's no surprise that by then authorities had identified the man as 39-year-old Leonard Lake. The alias he used, Robin Stapley, was missing for several weeks, but the rabbit hole only gets deeper. The car he was using belonged to Paul Cosner, a 39-year-old male whom had been missing for close to a year. Police began their search of Lake's ranch in Wileysville, California. His obsession with the end of the world was noticeably present at the ranch, as written in his journal. The police discovered a bunker with a substantial amount of weapons, and his journal documented his plan to repopulate the world with female slaves. The police found tapes of Lake and Charles. Police would uncover 12 corpses scattered throughout the ranch in shallow graves. Lake and Charles' victims included 2 families, Harvey Dubb, his wife Deborah, and their infant son Sean. And the other family included Lonnie Bond, his wife Brenda O'Connor, and their infant son Lonnie Bond Jr. This is beyond morbid and a disgusting act carried out by Charles and Lake. After the husbands and sons were disposed of, 5 other victims were men who were lured to the ranch to be robbed, including Robin Stapley and Paul Cosner. Their last victim was 18-year-old Kathleen Allen, a mutual friend of Charles. Police would also uncover bones totaling nearly 50 pounds, but were unable to determine the victims. Due to this, there is speculation that Charles and Lake collectively may have taken up to 25 lives. Lake's brother, Donald, and his friend Charles Gunner, bodies were found in 1992 on the ranch, not to be confused with Lake's accomplice, Charles Ng. With Leonard Lake dead, authorities would turn their attention to Charles Ng, Lake's accomplice. Charles, originally from Hong Kong, had well-off parents. However, as mentioned earlier, his father was physically abusive toward Charles. And also, as mentioned earlier, he was sent to a private school in England where he was expelled due to his stealing compulsion. His parents' last resort was to have him sent to California to live with his uncle, where he would continue to get in trouble, from dropping out of college to being discharged for stealing $11,000 in weapons from the Marine Corps. Charles would never get his life on track. The $11,000 he stole with 2 other accomplices included the theft of 3 automatic machine guns, 7 revolvers, night sight scope, and 3 grenade launchers. It's insane what the thoughts of Charles and his other 2 accomplices had in mind, but thankfully they were caught. Charles believed he was a mercenary and that he was the one to not be messed with, which obviously is due to his delusional beliefs and severe mental health issues. Charles Ng was not arrested until over a month after his accomplice Leonard Lake was captured. He was arrested in Canada after shoplifting a bottle of pop. Yes, a bottle of pop. Before he was cuffed, he pulled out a .38 caliber Cobra. However, he was subdued by Alberta authorities. Charles was placed on a 24-hour suicide watch, as him and Lake made a suicide pact together. Upon being interrogated, he blamed everything on his dead accomplice Leonard Lake. Due to Canadian laws, he would not be extradited to California for another 6 years. His trial would not occur until October 26, 1998. The court would reveal his and Lake's deeply disturbing tapes, including Charles commenting to victims saying, "I want to be able to use a woman in any way I want, and when I'm bored, I want to be able to simply put her away." This is definitely an extremely hard video to get through, and if you're still here, I commend you. These 2 make me feel very uneasy and very out of it. How can humans be so disgusting and so morbid? It's truly beyond me, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around Leonard Lake and Charles Ng's disgusting and vile crimes. Charles would petition to represent himself, pushing the trial back more than a year. On May 3rd, 1999, a jury decided Charles Ng would be executed for his involvement in the murders of 11 people. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng murdered over 25 people from 1983 to 1985. They were both twisted and severely demented individuals whom both should have faced prison time for the rest of their life. However, Lake was a coward and decided to take his own life. For the sake of the victims and their families, I hope they are at peace now. This video is extremely difficult to make for me, and I would like to end it now. Stay tuned. Until next time.